Alrighty. Welcome to another episode of Off the Mat, your affirmation podcast for mental health for athletes across the world. Here, I'm joined today with my guest, my former high school Hall of Fame coach, Ricky Shook. We have so many accolades and accomplishments that you've talked about. That could be the whole entire podcast, but I'm only going to mention a few. Coach Shook was inducted into the Connecticut Chapter Hall of Fame, National Hall of Fame. He's an assistant coach for 11 years with Hall of Fame coach Mike Morris and John Nimrock. He then took charge in 1999. For 23 years, he went 391 wins, 25 losses, and had 6 undefeated seasons in 2020, 2016, 2012, 2008, 2005, and 2000. He won a New England championship in 2017, 2019, and 2020. And since then has received a Golden Key and has joined a group of people such as George H.W. Bush, honored for his election and presidency, Hall of Fame hockey player Jordy Dow, Ron Francis, Brian Leach, Gino Auriemma, Jim Cohen, and many more important people. So, Coach Shook, glad to have you on the show. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I've been a coach for 30 some odd years, whatever it is. And it's been a long journey, a lot of learning. Had a lot of great kids go through my program, and hopefully they're all doing well. We had success because we had continuity within our program, and it just kept getting better and better, and the kids kept getting better and better. So it was a lot of hard work. It was started a long time ago. So, and I wasn't the one who started it. It was Morris. Mike Morris started it, and now it's on to a new chapter. So I'm out of Connecticut. I'm down south now.
Absolutely. So besides that, give us a little bit of background in your coaching experience. Did you wrestle? Were you doing any other sports? What are you doing now?
When I was little, I guess, or elementary school, middle school, I played baseball, football, wrestling, soccer. I played a lot of sports until probably ninth. Well, I did a lot of sports till ninth grade and committed totally to wrestling once I got to the high school. So, I was just too small to play most other sports, but I was well rounded in every one. So it's pretty cool, actually.
Absolutely. What were your accomplishments when you were wrestling before we get into, how your coaching experience?
I was a two-time county champ and a double L state champ. And in college, I placed third Division II Eastern Regionals, and I placed third in New England Regionals Division I. So, it wasn't great, but it was pretty good. It was fun.
As a Hall of Fame coach, what is your coaching philosophy and how do you approach training and developing your wrestlers?
Well, my coaching philosophy is if we do everything right during the year, everything will turn out all right. So I tell them, or my wrestlers, first day of practice is I'm going to treat you like men, and if something comes up, I need to know the truth, and be it grades or whatever. If they screw up doing something at home or whatever, I'll help them any way I can, as long as I get the truth out of you. And I'm not a guy that jumps right in and makes you run 8,000 miles and doing conditioning every day. I don't do a 2-week hell week, and I don't do it like that. I ease everybody into the season, and we should peak at the end of the season. So, it just show. If I did pyramid sprints beginning of the year with you or anybody else, you guys could probably only go up to 6. At the end, we're doing 12.
Mm-hmm.
So
We are.
you, yeah. So at the end is when you have to peak, and it's not in the beginning. I mean, we take every match, we assess every match, and see where we have to go with it. And it may be we didn't get out on bottom, so we have to work on bottom, or we didn't ride on top, we didn't slow down matches on top, whatever it may be. You change and adapt every week in wrestling. That's the good thing about it. Um, every team is different, every kid is different, and if you don't adapt and you keep on one course, it usually doesn't work. So you have to adjust every year, every day of wrestling season, every week you change, and you have to adapt to what's going on with your team.
Let's get into that a little bit. You mentioned how you have to adapt and change every season, or every year, every season. In high school is when most kids start their sports and they kind of begin doing something. How do you adjust to kids who have done it since middle school and elementary school to now you're teaching newer kids that don't know basic moves less, much less than the most experienced kids? How do you make that adjustment and still have a consistent 23 years of coaching and being a Hall of Fame coach? How do you do it?
Well, there's many ways to do it, but we have one curriculum for our whole program. So our elementary and middle school teams. So if the kids wrestle on those teams, they know what we're doing at the high school level. So it's continuity number one. Now, when you get new kids, because at freshman year, a lot of kids come out brand new. And
Hmm.
if you have a large number of brand new guys, you must split the room up and teach basics on one side and advanced on the other, because your advanced guys will actually get bored um, if I'm teaching a half Nelson, okay? And if I'm teaching a high level move, I don't know, whatever it may be, you're going to lose the new guys. So you have to split the room certain years. Some years, if I only have five new guys in the room, they're going to be lost for a while. And I tell them to stick it out, and it'll be worth it come January. You'll pick it up. We'll show them some stuff, but most of the time it's you have to split the room. So even with a big program like ours, I split the room. So you have to teach basics one side, advanced the other side. So you drill a lot with the advanced guys because you got to refine their skill, and then you find out in matches how good or what you need to teach every week. So you have
Absolutely.
to you have to adapt to the team, and every team is different. They could be good on their feet, they could be good on the mat, they could be bad on their feet, and whatever. They can. Every team's different. So I've had teams come up. I didn't have to teach much on top. I mean, we had good middle school coaches at that time. Brian Hayes, Gino Frank, they were so good on top. They came up. We spent our time on our feet. So you had to adjust to that group of kids.
Gotcha. And, being in teaching high school kids, immaturity, them being very young is a thing. I remember especially that was prevalent in my year. We had a really good 2017 was my senior year. We had a really good year. The only thing we lost was a duel against Mount Anthony. Other than that, we won everything from FCX, double L's, states to New England's for the first time in I think since 1990 something, right? At that time. But I remember specifically after the Mount Anthony duel, you said three things. You said, and that was towards the beginning, you mentioned that we will only not be successful or we will only lose this year if one, guys don't listen to me, they think they know, and then two, they think they know better than me, and guys aren't working hard. And you mentioned how you have to adjust the season every single way. Where do you get that philosophy from?
I get it from every coach I've ever had. Um, in every sport, actually. Steve Kaplanis was a football coach. I learned a lot from him, just coaching wise. The amount of work it takes to put in to be a good team. How good the Trojans were back in the day, and that was all because of Steve Kaplanis. And I've had great coaches: Morris, Nimick, Serrano. Um, I have take in a lot of stuff from. I'm a thief, is what I am. I steal everything from everybody else. I didn't make any of this stuff up, so I learned it. So you have to, and every year I learn something. Every year I coach, I would learn something new. I mean, I came down here, went to a club, learned something new. And I was like, wow, that works. All right, I like that. You'll take things and make them yours, but really everything I have taught, or I didn't create anything. That's for sure. But you have to adapt to each kid. So every kid is different. So if a kid is really really good, he's like blowing through guys, you have to find him a hard match. You have to adapt your schedule to each team. Never decrease it per se, but definitely expand it. And even when we have a light team, not filled with good guys, I still have my travel events where we we go 0-2, but they got to see that. You know, if I coach during the year and my best kid doesn't have a loss, that's a problem. They need to feel they need to feel a loss, and I see it all the time. Kids in the state open in our state go to the open undefeated and lose in the semis and then don't even wrestle back because they're so distraught. You have to learn how to lose to win. So, that year when we lost to Mount Anthony is probably the best thing for our team. Every year yeah, every year we lose to somebody, it would correct all the things that you're saying. Like, guys think they know more, and I'm like, you don't, you're a high school kid, you don't know enough. And, learning how to lose is probably the best way to get guys motivated and get them going, especially the good ones. The newbies and the average wrestlers, they lose anyway. So they're learning every day how to lose, or whatever. If they're 500, they're losing a lot.
There's this reoccurring word you keep saying is learning. And not only are you saying learning for your athletes, but you're learning as a coach every year. But I mean, after 23 years, you're already had all the accomplishments you needed. You could have retired early on. How do you still have the humbleness slash mentality to just consistently learn? I mean, you're retired now, but you're still down in Virginia Beach learning more about the sports from still the greats. How do you continue that mindset? I feel like at that point you would be like, listen, I know everything. I can stop. People have to come to me now and I'm paying. How do you continue to
I don't know everything. That's one thing you cannot ever say. Nobody ever knows anything. If you think you know it more than everybody, then you're not going to be successful. I mean, you have to learn
mm,
every day. So, you know, not only am I learning, whatever I learn, I pass on to my wrestlers. So, you know, every situation is different, but if I have a kid, whatever, that throws his headgear after he loses, that's a pet peeve of mine, and I pull them right out of the tournament when they do that. I've done it a couple of times. So, and they're my best kids, and it's not that I dislike them. I'm just teaching them a lesson.
mm,
You're hurting the team by doing that. You're embarrassing the program by doing that. So, you know, not often does it happen, but kids, have tempers, and
not only are you teaching them a lesson, but you're challenging them. Another thing you mentioned is challenging them. Like you said, if your best guy is not losing, you're doing something wrong. I mean, what kind of mindset is that? You would want. I feel like you would want your athlete to be undefeated, but that learning aspect is kind of like, wow, that's just a whole different approach. Kind of walk me through that.
Um, well, the best kid up until, I don't know, Kevin Jack, for example.
Hmm.
He went through high school and he had lost a lot when he was a freshman, but he just because he was small, he was too small for 106. But even his senior year, he had a loss before we got to states. So, you know, um, it, and I need a loss to bring me back to reality sometimes because guys, I'll be in cruise mode like we can't lose, and then we lose, and I'm like, all right, I got to change what I'm doing. And I know what I have to change because I've seen it. It just snowballs when you get so much success. And if you don't have a loss, I mean, the year we lost the FCAC, if you remember, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you were on that team, but we lost the FCAC that one year, and
Yeah, I
we had
wasn't,
it.
but I
We
remember.
had a really good team. We just wrestled poorly in the FCAC tournament, but then we went on to win double L's and opens against the team that beat us. So, that loss alone, it was hard for me to take a look at. I took that tournament, I guess, too easily, and
Wait, let's set the stage a little bit. So, because some people probably won't know what you're talking about. So, you had a winning streak from 2000 to 2010. In 2011, you had a winning streak winning the conference meet, which is the first meet of the championship season. You won that from 2001, 2010.
no,
2011 is the
we
year
won
that
it
you're
before
talking
that.
about.
It was going before I was the
Okay.
head, and I knew about
Oh,
it. Yeah, that streak was before I was the head, and that streak actually,
wow.
dual
I
meet
didn't know
wise,
that.
that streak's going back to 1986 for dual meets. So
Wow. Yeah, because the banners you had too.
yeah, yeah. So when we lost it, and streaks are always made to be broken. So
For sure.
at some point it's going to happen. But did, with that team, would I think that team would be the one to do it? No, no. But it did. It
Mm,
happened, and it straightened out that team and the guys on that team for the next few years. That they took nothing lightly, and you know it it just woke everybody up, and I'm good with that. I never coach for accolades. I coach for kids, and I, I don't know if I said it before, but I coach for kids to get in the best college and get them the best education that they can at the cheapest price. Sometimes wrestling will help that, and for the most part, it could be D3 to D1, so they can get into the best school that they want to get into and be successful in life. And I teach life lessons every day, and that's the good thing. I get to see kids grow. Even in the within the program, I'm down at the elementary level. I know who's coming. I'm at the middle school level. I know who's coming because I'm down there. And I see them grow from little kids to men when they get to me. I try to make them men before they're out of high school. So wrestling is probably the best sport in the world when it comes to making men. I gotta say that and maybe boxing, but there's no interscholastic boxing. So
any combat sport will make you into men real quick, and if you didn't know it if you didn't know it at practice, you'll figure it out in a match. I'll tell you that. That's fantastic. But let's take a couple steps back. Walk me through that mindset in 2011, that next practice after they had lost the streak, which seemed to have gone for like 30 years. What were the guys thinking? Maybe not so much you, because you said you were fine with it.
I wasn't fine with it I wasn't fine with it on the night that it happened, and I wasn't fine with it Sunday after it. And I still wasn't fine with it, but I couldn't let them know that. I just said we have to get back to work, and you know, and the next best thing to a win is a loss. So, you know, I don't want to say what actually happened in practice that next day because I got in trouble for it. But I didn't do anything bad. It wasn't bad. It's something I shouldn't have done. But we had a second place trophy. Just put it that way. And at the end of at the end of practice we didn't. So, and we kind of made it fun, but not, and made it light of the situation. But that's the way I coach. It's you're gonna have bad things happen, and you have to move on. And if you don't, it may bring you down. So we were very positive after that. It was like, all right, now we got a job. We got 5 days to correct what shouldn't have happened, and we did. We corrected it, and we got to work. It's amazing what losses do to kids, and it just straightens them back on the path of doing the right thing. So if you do them right all the time, I keep telling them that, and the guys, I'll see ex wrestlers and hey, you told me do it right and it'll work out. And you don't take side cuts and shortcuts and whatever. And you got to do what you have to do and do it right.
it's crazy because there have been many times where I've been in a match. I think it was in middle school one time, and just specifically like I listened, or no, I was in high school. I did a move exactly how you said it, and it worked. But it's that kind of like, of course, you idiot, like that aha moment, like, wow, if I do exactly what I'm supposed to do, like I do in practice, it's gonna work, you know. But I guess at that age, you're like, wow, you're still kind of getting the hang of working to be an actual good productive person to a sport, and it's really crazy. But I guess going off of that question, how do you assess the strengths and weaknesses and tailor your trainings to the individuals that you get in the beginning of the year? Because I guess they're new. You get new guys and you get experienced guys.
As far as the training aspect, it's all the same. They do the same conditioning part, lifting part. Um, as far as instructional, obviously we split the ring. Um, we do it that way. So the beginners learn beginning stuff, and the older guys get to drill and whatever whatever our day is. If we're drilling feet, we drill feet, and we refine the good guys. So as far as team atmosphere and team mindset, we talk about our goals from the first day on. I show them the banners in the gym and say, this is what is expected of our program. And our goals are at the end of the year, not the beginning. And our goals are to win FCX, double L's, Opens, and New England's. You know, New England's is a hard thing to attain with 6 states involved, but and the way the
Mm-hmm.
qualifications work. But you know, it took me a long time. I mean, I was the assistant when we won it in '90, and then I think we won it 3 out of the last 4 years I was there. So,
Yeah.
or 5 years or whatever it was. Um, but you always have to, if you remember, I hand out goal sheets every year, right?
Yeah.
Goal sheets, right? So I hand out a goal sheet beginning of the year, and I hand it back a couple weeks before the postseason. And some of you would put down, I want to start. Some of you put down, I want to win the double L's. So I hand them back so you can adjust your goals because some of them are already achieved and some of them aren't. So you have to adjust your goals and realistically on what you can achieve personally. So, and on that goal sheet, I have the team goals also. What are your team goals? And they are on there. So I read through every one of them. Some of them, some high school kids take them as a joke, and I'll hand it right back to them. They'll just put down win, 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 win. This is no good.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think about it, and then at the end of the year, it's important to hand them back because they need to adjust their goals. A lot of guys do, you know. So,
Walk me through how important mindset is, especially with being so successful and on the high school level.
well, mindset for a good wrestler is totally different mindset from a beginner. So every kid is different. So you have to actually figure that out as a coach, which way to push buttons on each kid. So if I have a good kid, and most of the time the good kids are confident already, so those are a little easier actually.
What do you mean push buttons?
Get them ready for matches. Tell them to take nobody lightly. It's hard to tell a returning New England champ that you have to be ready this match and every match because what I used to use a lot is when you wrestle lazy as a good kid, you can get hurt. If you don't take a kid seriously and he dives in and you don't sprawl, you could blow out your knee. So you know the the getting the good kids mentally prepared all the time is hard. That's why it's important to get them a loss because then you
Mm,
have something on them. The newer guys, you have to get the nerves out of them. So I tell them put headphones in, listen to your favorite song while you're warming up. Do things like that relax you. Just before you go out. And because I actually love watching kids wrestle their first match in high school when they come out for the team because
why is that?
they're literally scared to death. They are literally scared to death. And I try to make light of the situation and I ask them, how nervous are you? Because you're not smiling right now. And he's like, oh, I'm nervous. I could see it. They're shaking like a leaf. But once the whistle blows, once the whistle blows, all those nerves go right away. And I tell them that. I said, once the whistle blows, you can be like, oh, here we go. You're not
Mm-hmm.
thinking about everybody watching you. You're all on your own. You got no one to blame in this sport but yourselves. So, once they get those matches in, their first matches, it becomes easier and easier as you go. And to get them ready, it's just by being prepared by what we do in practice every day. And I tell them, we have prepared you to win. And you're wrestling most of the time. If it's a JV match, they're wrestling a kid same level, but he's in our program and he's been taught the way everybody else is. So it breeds success when you have success. So
And that's perfect. I mean, that feeds into my next question. I think we touched on it briefly, but what's the team's practice schedule, and how rigorous is the scheduling for matches, uh, and how do you tweak that every year to come out successful and on top every time?
well, when I took over, I was trying to figure out because we were struggling at the end of the year in the opens as individuals more than as a team and as a team. And when I took over, the only thing we didn't do is push ourselves in match wise. And I actually asked Coach Serrano, he was at New Fairfield at the time, and he had some
Mm,
kids that were not very good, and he got them to state open champs. He got two kids I couldn't believe won state opens, and
wow.
his team was really good. And I asked him, I said, how are you getting these kids better? I know he's a good coach and all, but you can only coach so much. And he goes, Ricky, I make sure that we go to the hardest matches we can find for these individual kids. So think about it this way: if your best kid on your team goes out and pins a kid in 30 seconds, what does he get out of it? Nothing.
Exactly. You didn't learn anything.
And now, so I took that and changed my schedule according to my team. And once I got it changed, I upped it. We traveled. We got to see. I loved bringing them to places they didn't know who they were wrestling. So the good guys had to prepare because they don't know who they're wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
and we upped our schedule that way, and it made us a better team. I didn't care about seeds. A lot of coaches care about, oh, I got to sit my guy this match so he has a better seed in the states. I didn't care about our seeds.
What were some of these tournaments you went to?
We we in the beginning we went to the eastern states. I had to
Mm-hmm.
connect there. Howie Greenblatt out of MacArthur. We also wrestled MacArthur back then. They were a Long Island team that were number one in New York State. Um, we took some beatings from them. We finally did beat him, but he retired. So we went to the eastern states. We went to Sanford, Maine, and that is always a great tournament because you get to see
Yes.
a lot of New England guys, which we wouldn't see normally during the year. And that's a 2 day event, and it's
Mm-hmm.
way up in Maine, and we didn't know anybody other than Timberlane was there, and I wanted to get them on the schedule because they're a great program out of New Hampshire, and as far as I'm concerned, over the last 20 years, there's three really, really good programs in New England that are consistently good, and it's us, Mount Anthony, and Timberlane, and
Yes.
and that was my goal to get them on the schedule, and we did that, and it upped our level of wrestling.
I know one of our bread, I would like to say our bread and butter, especially since I came up in the program from middle school all the way up to high school. I know our bread and butter was always leaving the state to go wrestle. We would wrestle with people in Pennsylvania, Mass, mostly New Jersey, and it was always a different atmosphere, and it would always really be that true test of where you were saying, like, you don't know the people you're wrestling, you have to be prepared. And I remember my first 2 years of going there, I would cry and cry and cry because I mean, I'm losing to guys who I've never met before, and you're really in for a rude awakening for wrestling, especially in those power states such as Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and well, now kind of Connecticut, I would argue. But it's really in that preparation. And for those guys that have wrestled in middle school, they are good guys because they've gone to those tournaments. And those new guys need to get on track because, if we're wrestling guys from New Jersey, Pennsylvania all the time, you come back to Connecticut, then you do receive those accolades and those winningness like in the championship season, like you see in our states. And I think that's so huge in preparation for, being a successful wrestler. But honestly taken as far as being successful in life. So you got to challenge yourself. However, how do you deal with like the mental frustration of that? Guys not handling losses. I know a lot our team is really good, but a lot of our guys, if you've known in the past, don't really handle losses well, and that can weigh on your mental state, especially if you're still in the middle of a tournament. How do you deal with that and kind of getting them back to wrestle back slash, getting them to continue on wrestling? Because a lot of people will quit, as soon as they get their first adversity.
Well, that's the good thing about bringing them to these type tournaments. They're all different levels, but they're higher level. So your guy that's going to be placing top three in the double L's is going to be in Maine. He's going to be in the wrestlebacks. So it actually trains I explain to guys, we win tournaments through the wrestlebacks. So yes, wrestlebacks win. Our champs are going to be there themselves and get to the finals, but really how you win most tournaments through wrestlebacks. So that's really why we go to more individual tournaments, because at the end of the year we're wrestling states in tournaments. We're not doing dual meets in the states. So we had to train our guys. We train them on 2-day weigh-ins. We train them on wrestling back. You have to be It is not fun wrestling back, but I tell guys every year at the Open, these teams that do the dual meet schedule, they're guys that lose in the wrestlebacks give up, and we cannot. We cannot give up in the wrestlebacks. Every match matters. Every point matters. So you have to train them to learn how to be not always the champ, but to place.
Yeah, bouncing back from that. I even noticed that too. Even in college, I went to a tournament. It was a D3 tournament. A lot of guys would be wrestling really hard in the beginning, and then as soon as they lose, you just watch them basically quit out of the tournament. Even if they were in the semis, you watch guys who were seated, uh, you know, second or third lose, like upset, and then they fall right out of the tournament, and you're just kind of like, you gotta wrestle back now, because what if that's it? And it's really really important in knowing that now wrestling back and still being in the mix, it still means something for you as a wrestler. You get more matches, but now your team, you're higher up. That pushes you better in the rankings for whatever next tournament's going to happen next.
Yeah, well, I'm a realist that way, so I kind of prepare guys before the tournament even happens. Because if there's
Mm,
two or three guys, or if you're on the same side as the best kid, I say, look, man, you need to get to him, and if you beat him, that's fine. But you most likely are going to be in the wrestlebacks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, saying that you can beat the guy. If Yeah, you got to be honest with kids, and if I never tell them that you have no shot to win. Everybody's got a shot. But realistically, your objective is to place top three or whatever it is, and I prepare them for that just in case. You have to be ready to go. I mean, the hardest thing to do is have your best guy get upset, because that happens also. And when that happens,
hmm
you really have to become a psychologist with that kid. You have to either get his mind ready to go, and it comes up quickly. And that first match after a big loss in a tournament, to get a kid ready, is the hardest thing in coaching. I think one of the hardest things, to get him mentally prepared to. He was expected to win, and now he's in the wrestlebacks. And I put it more on him to wrestle for the team than himself. And that usually works better than saying, hey, for yourself, you need to place that. I don't say that. I say the team needs you, because you can score as many points coming in second almost as third. So sometimes
hmm
more if you get pins. So that's the hardest thing in coaching, is to get kids ready that are supposed to win the tournament or whatever it is, and they lose. And them to get ready in the next 45 minutes for a wrestleback. Once you get them through that, it's usually okay. But that next match, you got to hope that it doesn't go wrong, because you're going to, it can snowball.
Yeah, and jumping kind of up, talking less about high school, let's jump more into like college and uh, higher level. Hello. Hello? I can't see you.